Welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary Ashton, and this is our NXT review. And I gotta say, this is a fun episode of NXT tonight. Got some entertaining matches, some interesting build for next week's television, all while we're steamrolling to that one special episode of NXT that will be headlined by Finn Balor versus Shinsuke Nakamura. And we actually got comments from both men tonight that I found entertaining. All around, a productive episode of NXT and a fun episode of NXT. Partner, what'd you think of it?
Wow, yeah. I mean, it was definitely a lot better than last week's, I think, but there were still some definite signs of regression on the show, I think.
All right, like, what'd you have in mind?
Well, we'll talk about that in the next segment.
Yes, we will. In fact, let's get right into it. No wasted motion. Heat of the night. I've got no heats of the night, no nitpicks, but partner, it seems like you disagree. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I have 3 nitpicks, but I want to really emphasize that these are not heat of the night. These are not me saying that the NXT is flat out just wrong for doing something and that they're awful. This is just me pointing out things that I feel like is steps in the wrong direction.
All right.
So the first one, an ad in the middle of your opening match.
Yeah, that was ill-advised. Definitely.
I like that. There's no better way to take somebody's investment out of a match completely than to break it into 2 chunks.
You know, I know people like an argument that could be said, well, WWE has a much bigger base than Lucha Underground or this, that, or the other. I don't see why you can't do a commercial before the start of a match and then a little bit after the end of a match so you get all the post-match stuff out there. Like,
right. Well, I mean, Lucha Underground, even a lot of the time, they'll do 2 commercials before a match where they'll have a commercial and then they'll have entrances and then they'll have another commercial, but then the match goes uninterrupted.
Exactly. WWE, even if it's just the NXT brand, because I'm not as hopeful for the main roster, but they'd really benefit adopting such a model because it sucks when your interest in a match becomes disjointed because then everything else seems to kind of suffer because of it. And it's a shame.
Yeah, especially because I heard that this match was really good live and like it was decent. Don't get me wrong, but I was hearing like 3.5 stars, and this to me was just kind of like, yeah, sure, whatever. It was all right. Like I wouldn't seek this match out to watch again.
Right, I get.
But
what
I
you're
feel
saying.
like if it would have been able to go on for the full match uninterrupted, maybe I would.
Yeah. I think I'm right there with you. It sucks when a commercial that badly timed can kind of cut into your involvement, your investment, and then just kind of leave you the way that you were left. It sucks.
Yeah. So that was the first one. The second one is the constant recapping of Balor and Nakamura's exchange at the end of the show a couple weeks ago.
I mean, yeah, I can understand, like, when it's too much, how it could grate on anybody's nerves, but I think because this is going to be just an episode of NXT and not a takeover, maybe they feel the need, maybe they feel even more urgent to get out there and promote it because they want people to know that's not going to be, like, just any episode of NXT. It's going to have a really big main event.
Well, and that leads me to my third nitpick, actually, glorifying that match.
So you think they're overhyping it?
Well, don't get me wrong. I am sure that it is going to be just a really, really good match. There's no doubt in my mind it's going to be fine. Like, I'm not trying to say that they're putting so much hype behind it and then it's going to end up disappointing, because it won't disappoint. My thing is, there are literally no stakes here.
That is true. It
Nakamura Balor might as well be an exhibition match.
I mean, yeah, it would be nice if Regal said, oh, by the way, winner gets to be #1 contender for Joe's NXT Championship at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. Even if that would make it obvious that Shinsuke was winning.
Right, and at this stage, honestly, I feel like it's too late for that now. Because, like, if you would do that next week, it's like, well, dude, you've had 3 weeks now to say something. Why have you been keeping us waiting for so long?
Exactly. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
So, yeah, I mean, again, very, very sort of whiny, I guess you could say, nitpicks, but just 3 little things that I noticed tonight that I felt like were steps in the wrong direction. They're becoming more and more like Raw.
Hey, dude, I'm glad you got it off your chest. I don't know if I completely agree, but I'm certainly sympathetic to your sentiments. I can
Right, well, I
understand
mean, if
clearly.
you just think about like NXT versus Raw, the things that we complain most about on Raw, first of all, commercials during matches are the
Right.
worst. Second of all, the constant need to recap stuff that we literally just saw. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, granted, the Nakamura Balor thing wasn't something that happened this week, which would be more Raw-esque, but they showed that exact segment happened 2 weeks ago, and they showed a recap of it last week. And not only did we see another recap of it this week, but they also showed us these interviews from these guys this week.
Yeah, the parallels definitely seem to be there.
And then, third of all, the one thing that I'm really hoping that NXT doesn't start doing is this constant self-gratification, where WWE on Raw, it's always like every match is, this is the biggest match of his career, or like, this is the biggest upset of all time. Like, constant, like the massive just circle jerk that is the main roster.
Right, right.
I don't want NXT to become that, and they're building up, and they already are kind of guilty of that to a degree. Last year at NXT TakeOver Respect, when they circle jerked themselves about having a women's match main event.
Right, yeah.
I just don't want that to become the norm, and this Nakamura Balor thing feels very self-gratuitous.
I see where you're coming from, man. Well, hopefully NXT can kind of stop those trends before they become problematic. Here's to hoping. I really don't know which way they're going to go. But with that said, do you have anything else you want to address?
I don't, so let's move on.
All right, let us get right into our NXT review. And if I'm not mistaken, we open right up with Carmella, Alexa Bliss.
Yes, we do.
Fun match. I think if I only had one minor criticism of this match, I like the choke that Alexa uses to set up for the Twisted Bliss. I gotta remember to start calling that now. My problem is this particular one seemed to linger a little bit, where I'm kind of looking and I'm like, well, Carmella, are you gonna elbow her? Are you gonna kick her? Like, if you're gonna do it, honestly, it should be like a choking, almost like sweeping STO like or something. Like, it should just be one fluid motion to me.
Honestly,
Like,
I think that's kind of what she goes for, but she wants to hold the choke in because, like, I don't know if you kind of picked up on this or not, but I feel like the entire purpose of that move isn't, oh, let's show how strong Alexa Bliss is. No, it's let's show Alexa Bliss's crazy facial expressions, and they zoom in on her face when she does that.
Exactly, and I love that she emotes, but why can't you emote after the maneuver before you ascend to the top rope to do the Twisted Bliss? Or even on the top rope, maybe you make a face like, I've got you now or something. I just feel like in that position, it's a little weird for me. And normally I've been cool with it, because I know it's not the first time she's done this. I'm well aware. It seemed like tonight it went on for a little too long before we, resumed the action, it just felt like. So, yeah, that's my only criticism of the match, though. Fun outing. It really seems like they're going to give Carmella that sympathetic build, like, oh, she really wants to be NXT Women's Champion, but she can't string the necessary wins together. Meanwhile, I love how they're building Alexa as a babyface, or as a heel, excuse me, because I'm really enjoying her heel work.
Yeah, I like Alexa's facial expressions, but it's weird because, like, I feel like Alexa Bliss is the female Enzo Amore.
Elaborate on that.
Okay, so Enzo Amore has all the charisma in the world, and he can talk people into a building, and he's got the acting down pat. But in the ring, there's a lot left to be desired, and that's pretty much where Alexa is right now. She's not bad in the ring. I'm not trying to say that, but neither is Enzo. She's, as far as in ring, they're at like that 5.5/6-ish out of 10 kind of stage, and I just think that with a few more years of experience, Alexa will be great. But right now, I'm not super impressed with her yet in the ring.
I'm really where you are, I think, with your assessment of Alexa as a performer. I do think give her a few years, she'll refine her game, she'll adapt her game. It's a shame that we haven't seen too much refinement on that end, because the character, I think, again, she is down to a science. I'm with you again with the Enzo parallel, because he has his finger on the pulse big time. But, the ring work's got to match it just a little bit more than what it currently is.
Yeah.
And you know what, though? I will say this. If they are going the route eventually of an Alexa Bliss Asuka program, I mean, it's certainly going to be better than Asuka Nia Jax for my money. I'm actually excited to see that. But yeah, Alexa gets the win with Twisted Bliss, and she moves on to the next one.
And actually, that actually makes me think, too. I wanted to talk about Carmella here, too. I feel like Carmella has almost the opposite problem.
Right.
Because, like, I feel like she's a solid, like, maybe, like, 7.5 in the ring. Like, she's better than Bliss as far as pure in-ring work goes. and I would say even Enzo. But she really needs to work on actually being like convincing as far as like acting like she wants to win the match. Because right now it feels like she's so much more concerned with looking pretty and pandering to the crowd than actually trying to look like she wants to win the match.
You want her to convey some sense of hunger in the character, right?
Some sense of wanting to win, like whether you want to call that hunger or not. Like right now, when she does things, she's so much more worried about, smiling almost and like trying to look cute and really just kind of pandering to the crowd than looking like she's trying to win a fight, which is what she's supposed to be trying to look like she's doing.
So really, would you say, because I don't want to put words in your mouth, would you say that your assessment of Carmella, when you say like she almost wants to smile, is it kind of like Amanda Lee's problem on Tough Enough that Booker T just almost wanted to like...
You did it again. You did it again. It's Sarah Lee. Amanda was
Sarah
Lee.
I know. But yeah, I mean, you get what I'm saying, though, nonetheless.
Yeah, I do think that it's a similar problem. And it's crazy to me that Booker T was on Sarah Lee's case about it, and she was like a month or two into the business, and Carmella still has that problem, and she's how many years into the business, Right,
absolutely.
Yeah, so I like Carmella, and I think that that's like a big reason why so many people liked this match, because like regardless of what the match was going to be, based on how much everybody loves the two performers in it, they were going to overrate it regardless.
Right.
But still, I do think Bliss needs to work on just being crisper in the ring. Carmella needs to work on actually looking like she's trying to win.
Right, I can agree with you there.
So yeah, it's one of those things where I kind of like, while we were watching this match, even before, well, specifically before the commercial break, all I was thinking was like, man, I was expecting this to be really good, but I feel like people's like almost like their expectations are really lowered when anyone is in that ring that isn't one of the four horsewomen, Paige, Emma, or Asuka.
I don't know if I agree with that assessment full on, but I don't know. Maybe it's just more like, oh, we find Carmella really likable, and Alexa's gotten really, really good, at least in their minds. So
right.
Maybe they yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just from my perspective, like I feel like the matches with the women that don't involve the women that are already really established,
Right.
Charlotte, Becky, Bayley, Sasha, Paige, Emma, and who else did I say earlier?
You said Asuka? I don't know if
Asuka, yeah. Those seven women, like, you can hold their matches up to the men's matches, and they're as good, if not better. It's good. Like,
yes.
That's like, they've got it handled. And I would even knock Charlotte out of that group to make it 6, because I don't think she's that great either.
Right.
But with the rest of the women, and especially in NXT, if they put on an even somewhat competent match, I feel like people overrate the match and say, oh my God, that was amazing, just because it was good for who did it.
Right. I can see what you're driving at.
Like, you never hear someone say, oh yeah, Sasha Banks versus Bayley was good for a women's match. No, it was just good.
Exactly.
But if you see this match, Alexa Bliss versus Carmella, you might be sort of, tempted to say that was good for a women's match, which I don't like that.
Yeah, you might be have a great temptation to compartmentalize, like, oh, that was fine for women.
Like, right, exactly. Well, I don't think it was. I didn't really mean it as malicious like that, but yeah.
No, I know.
It just kind of feels like if this match was, if you had this exact same match put on between any two other, if just for example, if Sasha and Becky put on this exact same match, people would be disappointed to hell by it.
Right. Because those women, went out and they tore the house down at their takeover match.
Right, because they've established themselves as workhorses, and these two haven't necessarily done that. So when they do something even reasonably good, even slightly above average, people are kind of aching to kind of jump on it and crown it the next big thing.
I can see what you're saying now.
Yeah.
Now that you framed it that way, it makes more sense to me.
Yeah. So,
with that said, any other comments you want to make?
I don't have any other comments. I really wanted to talk about this, and I'm glad I got everything out though, because that was a lot of stuff that I was thinking, and I wanted to make sure that we got that all out there.
Hey, I'm glad you did too, man. That's what we're here for. So with that said, let's move on.
Okay. Well, I mean, we kind of did discuss this in my nitpicks out of the heat of the night. We had the recap of Balor Nakamura from a couple weeks ago.
Right, replaying everything from Shinsuke praising Finn all the way to the crowd going, oh, you, crowd explosion, so yeah.
Oh, and by the way, that was another thing I really wanted to point out. If you don't believe me when I say that people overrated the Bliss Carmella match, the Full Sail crowd was chanting, "This is wrestling."
That's right. Yeah, I don't think the chant lasted that long, but I did catch it. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, like the fact that people were even thinking, "Oh my God, this match is amazing. I need to tell everyone how much I love it," to that degree,
Right.
tells me that it's been overrated by at least some people. You
Right.
know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
So anyway, back to sort of what we were talking about chronologically. The recap of Finn Nakamura. Like I said, not a big fan of the recaps showing up in NXT. I think that even like in Lucha Underground, we've had one actual replay ever, and it was Phoenix getting put through a goddamn building.
Yeah, that
Like,
was worth a replay.
Yeah, if anything is worthy of a replay, it's that.
Exactly.
And you know what? Now that I think about it, we might have even had a replay for Matanza and Mil going through a roof too, but I don't even remember if we did or not.
Right.
But yeah, like just this verbal exchange between Nakamura and Balor, I don't really see where that warrants a replay 2 weeks in a row.
I just think, and again, I'm speaking solely in WWE's mind, it's like, oh, we've got to make a big deal out of this because it's Shinsuke Nakamura and the longest reigning NXT champion ever, Finn Balor. So they want to milk it. And you know WWE, when they're going to milk something, they leave nothing for the cow. Like, it goes.
Maybe, yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, no kidding. Maybe this is kind of an example of me kind of being over Finn Balor.
Possible. I mean, look, dude, you know where I've been with Finn Balor.
Because, like, if you were going to build up Nakamura Joe the way that they've been building Nakamura Finn, I would be losing my mind and I would be going right along for the ride.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been over Finn for a while, but I'm going to be reinterested in him when he debuts on the main roster. Like,
that's what it is.
That's what it is.
It's this, like, stagnation with the Finn Balor character. Because, like, he has no motivation left. Like, this match isn't really Finn Balor's match. This match is Nakamura wanting to beat Finn Balor to prove that he's better than him.
Exactly. This is Shinsuke's match. Pure and simple to me. Yeah.
Right. And I love that Nakamura is here and that he's getting a big match built up around him, but why is it in NXT and not in front of the millions of people that he would be exposed to on the main roster?
I want to respond to you to give it time, but I don't know how much time they plan on giving it.
Right. That's my thing. Like, I feel like just because you've got the draft coming up in a couple weeks doesn't mean that you can put everything on hold and just kind of be like, oh, screw storylines, throw them out the window. Let's wait till the draft and the dust settles.
Right.
I still want story from my wrestling, even if it is, loose enough story where it's like two people don't like each other and now they're going to clash. This is two guys that get along, and one of them just came off of a world title run and the other one wants to prove he's better than him. Like, that's like ROH level storytelling. And I've already complained about NXT feeling like ROH too much as it is.
Right. That is true. I don't know, man. I just think, again, I think you kind of hit it on the head in your earlier remarks about how because the draft is looming, they probably want to get like all the great stuff out, get the draft out of the way, and then whatever's left, like put together your Brooklyn card.
Yeah, I was going to say, though, I mean, if you would think that if they were trying to get all of the good stuff out, that they would do matches like Finn Nakamura, and then, like, the following week we'd have Joe Nakamura, and then, like, the following week, you know what I mean? Like, they would get all the good stuff out before the draft, because right now they're building up to one match. Like, I don't understand why they can't just kind of go all out, give us all the dream matches we could ever want, because in the future we don't know if the guys are going to be on the same roster.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, with NXT handling it this way, because I know, like, I've been hearing, the original number was 7 people are going. Now I'm hearing anywhere from 10 to 12. NXT
I'm hearing 8 to 12, yeah. And then the source that I'm hearing 8 to 12 from is the same guy that I keep on talking about that got a lot of other things right.
Exactly. Yeah. And my thing is, I don't even know, if I'm really being honest, I don't even know if Nakamura is going to be one of those 8 to 12.
And for what it's worth, I was going to say, for what it's worth, the guy that's saying it's 8 to 12 was saying that like a month and a half ago before everyone else knew about it.
Right. I don't know if Nakamura, even though he should be like a number 1 draft pick for my money, I don't even think he's going to really make the cut, because I think they want to keep him down in NXT, which is a shame.
Really? You think he's going to stay in NXT?
I really do. I just got a weird feeling. I mean, again, looking at my win-loss record, I mean, don't take it for anything, but I
Well,
do
no, but
think
is
that
it just like a
yeah.
gut feeling, or do you have an actual logical explanation for why you?
I mean, to me, like, if they're building up this idea, oh, I've got to beat you, Finn, before I can challenge for the NXT champion, I'm thinking they may want to save Nakamura Joe for Brooklyn, which would be
Well,
after
yeah.
the draft.
Well, no, but see, that's the thing. You've got to remember, people get called up to the main roster, and they still show up at NXT for a month, 2 months, 3 months after they're on the main roster.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. That might be what they do.
I think Sasha is the perfect example of that because she was the women's champion when she got called up, and she held the title to Brooklyn, and Brooklyn was a month after she got called up, and then another 2 months after she got called up, or after Brooklyn, she challenged for the women's title again.
That is true.
Spec.
Yeah, they'll probably do that with Shinsuke. I would hope.
I don't
I
think
don't
he's
know.
going to win the title from Joe.
I don't think he's going to win it either. No, I still think, what you've been saying and what I've kind of tagged along with, I think Hideo's got that honor.
Dude, I really hope you're right. Honestly, it wouldn't bother me one bit if we had Joe Nakamura on an episode of NXT TV and then Hideo Joe was the main event of Brooklyn.
I think that'd be rather cool. It'd be a great story for Hideo.
So much more sense than trying to build to Joe Nakamura, because then you're asking Joe to stay in NXT for even longer, because he's not going to drop the title to Nakamura. And regardless, either way, both of these guys should be on the main roster. Joe and Nakamura should both be on the main roster as of the draft. So then you would want Joe to drop the title as soon as possible, which you would think, well, they could do a Sasha. They could have Joe drop the title at Brooklyn and maybe come back to challenge for it at the following pay-per-view, but you don't even need to do that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you could, because, like, Joe Nakamura is a dream match for sure, but they need to get it out of the way before Brooklyn so that at Brooklyn you can do Joe Hideo and have Hideo win the title.
I'm agreeing with everything you're saying, and I hope WWE goes that route. I just got a weird feeling, man, about Shinsuke that maybe they're going to pull back.
Knowing my luck, you're probably right, but we'll see when we get there.
Absolutely.
So then we did get the Nakamura interview. He just talks about how he's known Finn for over 10 years, and they've been good friends for a long time, and then kind of closing in on the end of the interview, he says that he promises to give us something sensational.
Yeah, I really like Nakamura's interview here, if I'm being honest. I liked his delivery, and, I think his English, it's quite well. Yeah, he's definitely...
His English is like a 7.5 out of 10.
Yeah, which I think is main roster ready for my book. That's another thing, too.
Yeah, and it's cool, too, because, like, even in this interview, you could see the gears turning and him kind of, like, thinking of what English word to use next.
Right.
Did you catch that, too, in this interview?
Yeah, I definitely got that vibe.
That's cool to see, though, because it's like, this dude is so smart, and, like, I'm pretty good at the one language I know, and I'm pretty, pretty scrubby, shoddy. I think shoddy's the word.
Yeah, shoddy's the word.
At a second language, Spanish, but Nakamura is a master at Japanese, and like we said, 7.5 out of 10 in English. Like, I would say you and I are in the 9 to 9.5 out of 10 range for English, and I'm like a 2.5, maybe 3 out of 10 in Spanish.
Right.
I don't think what about German? You're pretty good at German, right?
No. I'm going to shut that down right now. I am not.
Okay, so it's just the English for you.
Yes.
Okay, so that's that. Regardless, Nakamura is way smarter than both of us as far as language goes.
Hey, you didn't even need to invoke language to make that claim. I would have accepted it as fact. So yeah, way to go, Shinsuke.
But yeah, up next we had a Cathy Kelley interview with Bayley. She asks her how it felt to kind of come back last week and get that win and kind of bring her momentum back, and Bayley's excited. But then Alexa Bliss shows up.
Yeah, great contrast here. I mean, Bayley, the ultimate babyface, Alexa, I think, trying to really get that top heel spot.
If NXT had movie-esque cinematics like what Lucha Underground has, I would have absolutely died at the musical transition from the Bayley stuff to the Alexa stuff.
Yeah, really.
It would have been like the Vaudevillains' old theme song where like Bayley's talking, it's and then Alexa shows up and it's bum bum bum.
Yeah. Great stuff, man. But yeah, Alexa more or less says, look, Bayley, you had your chance and you blew it. I never got pinned in the triple threat, and if you just saw, I destroyed your best friend. So I deserve to be NXT Women's Champion. And you know something? I took great pleasure. I enjoyed beating up your best friend, but I'm going to take great pleasure in beating you. And then she walks off. I'm just like, oh, Alexa, you so catty. And Bayley's just like, well, guess that's another one I'm going to have to beat on my road to redemption to the NXT Women's Championship. So, yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, there you go. Up
Anything?
next. No, I'm not going to add anything to that. Up next was our second match of the night. Noah, and it used to be Kikoa, I know that, but I think they changed his last name to Potjes, versus Andrade, Cien, Almas.
Actually, I'm going to ask you a question right out of the gate before we even touch the in-ring work of this match.
Okay.
Because as you noted at the start, when we kind of touched on this, there were, we want Ty chants and definitely chants for Ty Dillinger, the perfect 10. For Andrade, that do you think that's going to spell trouble in the future? Do you think that's going to persist? And if so, do you think
it depends on how long they keep the feud going.
I almost felt like, though, the feud was over, wasn't it? I mean,
I
Andrade's
don't
beaten
think
Ty
the
too
feud's
straight.
over, dude. I think that Ty is going to go after Andrade again.
Really? That's so interesting to me, because I really thought the feud was like definitively shut.
You've got to think about the way that Ty lost.
Didn't he lose pretty definitively though after the knees to the face?
No, he lost because the crowd was distracting him.
Oh, but that was against Oni Lorcan though. That wasn't against him.
Oh my God. Wow, yeah, you're right. I just completely blanked on that. Still though, I don't think Andrade versus Ty is over. I think Ty is too hungry to let those losses loom over his head.
But even because again, pretty definitive victories for Andrade, so I'm assuming it's over. So even if like you bought into my side of the argument that it is over,
yeah,
do you think that this crowd is just like, no, because Andrade beat somebody we really love, we're going to rally harder for that person?
Yeah.
And do you think NXT is going to respond in kind and turn Andrade heel, which I think would turn a profit for the character?
I don't know. I have no clue, man. That's the one thing that I can never really do with NXT is predict how quickly they'll catch on to the crowd's response.
Right.
Because like with Bo Dallas, I was screaming, oh my God, this guy's awful. You need to turn him heel months before they actually let him start acting like a heel.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, man. It's just, I don't know. Maybe it's just, I was a little spoiled because you know how stoked I was on Andrade's vignettes. I loved them.
Yeah.
And they
but they felt heelish.
Yeah, it gave off such a heel vibe. And then, like, and for the record, I just want to put out there for public knowledge, I love Andrade's theme. I think it's really climbing into my top 5. I've been playing it a lot lately.
Nice.
So I can't even say that I hate the theme because I like it. I just really wish he was heel. I like everything else, though. It's got a great look. The double knees, I don't know, maybe because Lucha Underground and Taya, I kind of wish there was a
Taya's are better, too.
I know, she's so wonderful.
Her knees look so much more devastating than Andrade's, because Andrade's knees are just like to the shoulders, whereas Taya actually looks like she's kneeing you in the face.
In the face!
In the face!
So yeah, I mean, I think you and I don't want to speak for you, speaking for me, I like Andrade, and I think I want to like Andrade even more, but he's one of those projects that I think needs some tweaking. And I probably sound like a major douche nozzle saying that, in my expert opinion. But, I just think a heel turn would really be so cool, especially because, like, he's not this big hulking guy, like, or this really even, like, this thick guy like Joe who's imposing and intimidating, but I think we need that kind of variance in heel, and it would kind of make him distinct. I don't know.
Honestly, dude, I think his skill set, and not even just, like, his look and sort of the aura, the vibe that we got from the vignettes, but even his skill set seems more to favor him as a heel than as a face, because I don't know if you noticed in this match, but I felt like he really undersold Noah's offense.
Yeah.
And if you're a babyface, you need to sell, and you need to be sympathetic, and you need people to feel for you. And if you can't oversell, or at the very least sell convincingly, you're going to have problems as a face.
I agree with you. And even the little stuff that he does, which I know, like, why baby faces would do them. Like, when he does that little spider thing in the ropes. It's to get a pop in this
dude,
match.
When he did it today, the crowd booed.
And see, like, why I think it could work as a heel tactic and I would keep it, it just drips with arrogance to me.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is how lightly I'm taking you, that I can rest like this in a totally vulnerable position because that's how little of a threat you are to me. And I'm telling you, I think if they turned him heel, I'd be along for the ride. Any ride they'd want to take him, any program, I'd be in it, because I really do feel like I really like this guy. It's just those little bit of problems that keep me from going over the edge into that John fandom that you all know, love, and are tempted to get a restraining order for. So yeah, that's where we are right now.
Yeah. I really like Andrade, but again, he needs to be heel. And even like when it gets to the point that even your skill set kind of is a requisite to being a heel, in that like you kind of have this arrogance, you have a good look, guys should be jealous of you, and you do like the rope hang thing, and then like even at like the live special where he was doing like the stalling on the top turnbuckle kind of thing. That's, I mean, it's kind of flashy, but it's flashy in kind of a douchey way.
Exactly. It's like, you're gonna wrestle the match? No. See, this guy's so pathetic. I'm just gonna pose a lot and look awesome.
Yeah, like it feels almost like the Dolph Ziggler show-off gimmick.
Exactly. And
But again, the difference there is that Dolph Ziggler oversells his ass off to get that sympathy, and you don't see that from Andrade at all.
Exactly. Dude, I think you articulated it perfectly. I have nothing more to say. Andrade does get another win, so he's rolling on. They're doing another undefeated streak kind of thing. Don't really care for it, but it's whatever. We can move on.
Up next was an Andrea DeMarco interview with Austin Aries. And John, because I know you love your unsalted pretzels, I'm going to let you take this.
Yeah, again, guys, being the scummy human being that I am, I thoroughly enjoyed No Way Jose getting assaulted last week.
Oh my God.
But I mean, you knew it was coming. Don't oh my God. I mean, you saw this. You knew this was coming. But Austin Aries' justification. Like, wow, dude. Pacifier much? Oh, they should have been privileged to see me.
I'm even angrier at Austin Aries now, knowing that he's basically getting the heel turn that Roman Reigns should get.
I know, right?
They booed me. How dare they? They should be happy to see me. They should be happy that I am in front of them performing because I'm just that good.
Dude, it's funny because when you say the words back to me, I just visualize them coming out of Roman's mouth.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It should have been Roman.
It should have been me.
Roman got turned. Have you ever seen Dewey Cox?
I feel like I've heard of Dewey Cox.
Walk Hard, a Dewey Cox story?
Yes, yeah, we watched that together, I believe, yeah.
Wrong kid died, wrong guy turned.
Oh, man. But yeah.
I gotta watch that movie. It's been too long.
That was so good. But yeah, man, I mean, I agree with you. Like, Aries' justification, and I don't say this insultingly, but it is by the numbers, though I do like it. Like, he's like, oh, I'm so great at what I do, and I get booed. And yet, No Way Jose, what does he do? He dances, and he's loved by everybody. It should have been Roman. But you know what? I think it could work for Aries. And you know what? I'm still never going to be a big fan of the guy, and admittedly, I still don't even know what the big deal is. But I think he's more palatable to me as a heel. And that's not just because I love heels.
You dislike him, and him being a heel means that you disliking him is the correct reaction to have.
Exactly. And in Aries' particular case, because I know anybody that has listened to this show long enough knows that I do have an affection for heels, and especially great heels. In the case of Aries, it's not so much that, as it's just being a dick seems like his natural disposition. Like, to put it another way, Aries is the kind of guy that if I was to walk up to him at an autograph signing where I'm actually supposed to exhibit this kind of behavior and ask for an autograph, he would thumb his nose at me and go back to talking to somebody significantly more important. Like, that's who Austin Aries is to me. So, yeah, we'll see what happens.
All right. So, up next, we had the Finn Balor interview that kind of is going along with this whole interview series that we had with Nakamura earlier.
Yeah, and Finn kind of illustrates his fan side a little bit here. I should say exhibits his fan side.
Well, again, though, it's kind of like I said, this isn't really his story, so he almost kind of is playing an outsider within his own story.
Right, which is really weird.
Yeah, because, like, this is about Nakamura, and Finn's just like, oh, well, if you're doing that, then that includes me, so I have something to do now. Hooray!
Right. It's like, I get to tag along.
Pretty much.
But Finn, like, he even says, like, Shinsuke Nakamura versus Finn Balor on NXT. I get excited just saying it. And I'm like, Finn, that's so cool and everything, but you know you were the longest reigning NXT champion of all time, right? Like, get your game face on, man. I'll just be excited and be like, I'm going to show Shinsuke Nakamura why I am the Lion, or just some crap like that. I don't know. Finn, you're good at cutting promos. You do something. So yeah, this was, it was, and I'm just really looking forward to getting through this match, mainly so Finn can finally be on the main roster and we can all resume our lives.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go. So what came after this?
I didn't know you were done, honestly.
Oh, yeah, that was pretty much my thought. Yeah, just a pretty by-the-numbers promo from Finn to kind of promote the match. I mean, I like some of the stuff he said, again, being an inner fan and stuff, but that's it.
Okay, so up next... Sorry. Up next, we had the main event. Match number 3, the third match, the final match. Hype Bros versus Gargano and Ciampa. Solid match, actually. I'm not a big fan of Mojo Rawley, and actually, to say that is an understatement. I can't stand his face, but he hit a lariat on Johnny Gargano outside the ring tonight, and he had an intensity after he hit the lariat where he was kind of, screaming, and he had like this intense thing going on. Made me think that he would actually be for a really good heel if they'd ever turn him.
I was just getting ready to ask you, because I could see kind of where your remarks were going. And I was getting ready to ask, do you think Mojo would be better as a heel? And I'm even thinking, like they talk about, I know it was, Tom Phillips said when he was doing that 3-point stance move, it's like, oh, he's getting lost back in his football days. Like, if we really rev that up to 11, but did like a heel persona, maybe that would work. I don't know.
Honestly, I think that the easy route to go with him for him to turn heel is just he's bitter that Zack Ryder doesn't spend all his time with him.
Yeah.
Because, we have already seen, through Breaking Ground, through video packages, through all kinds of stuff, Mojo's in NXT, Zack Ryder's on the main roster, and Mojo seems really bitter and salty about the fact that Zack Ryder specifically would rather do stuff on the main roster than come down and work with Mojo at the training center.
Right. In fact, you saying all that kind of gives me just, again, like this hypothetical, how you could set it all up. Say American Alpha, they lose their NXT Tag Team title rematch. They do a brief thing with the Authors of Pain. Maybe they lose that too, and then they're on the way out. And maybe Mojo, or maybe both of the Hype Bros come out and they're like, we know you're leaving and stuff like that, but it would be our honor to have your farewell match. Maybe they have it. Zack Ryder eats the pin, or maybe Mojo eats the pin. I don't know what would be better for the bitterness. And then Mojo attacks Zack out of the fact and just really lays him out. Just like, I'm sick of the failures. I'm sick that you get to be on the main roster, and yet you come down here and you treat me like crap because we lose when I'm better than losing. And then he could appeal to like his football expertise or something like that. I don't know. I think it could work. I definitely see a germ of an idea there. Definitely.
Yeah, there's something. And I think that you and I are coming from the same place. Mojo needs to be a heel.
Definitely. So that's 2 people now that are babyfaces currently that need to be heels. Get your shit together, NXT.
It's the freaking Roman effect, man.
Yeah, man.
Nobody is allowed to turn heel until Roman turns heel, and then the floodgates open.
I will say, this definitely was the Hype Bros' best outing. I think, like you said at the start of the program when we were kind of running down the card, I think Gargano and Ciampa are a kind of team that'll bring out the best in whatever team they're facing.
Yeah.
And
last year, the tag match of the year was them versus American Alpha.
Exactly. And you're already talking about 2 great teams as is, but then when 2 great teams get to work with each other, they probably feel inspired, and they're like, oh my god, we can do stuff. So yeah, good stuff. Great tag team fundamentals on display. And really, and this is going to be maybe a strange remark to make, I liked Gargano's answer to the Hype Rider, because Ciampa seemed like he was in trouble. Gargano pulling out Mojo Rawley's foot. And that was really clever.
Graves even pointed out the strength required to be able to do that is crazy.
Exactly. We have a little bit more back and forth after that, but then finally Gargano and Ciampa hit their double team move. From what I understand from commentary, I think they called it meeting you in the middle or something like that. So they hit that, the super kick and then the knee to the back.
We know the real name of that move, though, right?
What is it?
PCS.
PCS, which stands for what now?
Post-concussion syndrome.
Oh my god, that's right. When did you come up with that originally? I thought it was a few episodes back, wasn't it?
I think it was when they did it the first time.
Yeah, probably, because you are on the spot like that. So yeah, Gargano and Ciampa win, get a microphone. They pretty much lay down the gauntlet to the Revival because they say, well, we beat you guys. So the way we see it, because we actually beat you guys before you regain those titles, we're at the front of the line. Then American Alpha comes out and they're saying, no guys, all due respect, you haven't earned anything. We still have our rematch. We're gonna take care of the Authors of Pain, but before that, we need to regain our titles and remind the Revival why we're the alphas of NXT. And then the Revival come out, and I don't know why I keep underestimating these guys or I forget how good they are on the mic, but I enjoy it. I enjoy Scott Dawson's stuff, especially because I think he talks more than Dash, and it works.
Dash
Because
actually got some pretty good lines in tonight, too.
Yeah, he did. I always felt like Dawson, though, was the better talker between the two, personally.
Oh my god, yeah, I agree with that. I think Dawson's an incredibly underrated talker.
I would agree with you there, too. I think he's hilarious, dude. Oh, we find it wonderful that you guys are fighting over Dash and myself. But we're the best tag team there is. Just great stuff all around.
Like, do you remember those leaked presentation skills promos?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you remember the Shooting the Breeze with Tyler Breeze episode?
Was that the one where he was like, oh, what, something about me, or like he always brought it back to himself in that one that we kind of...
No. He was interviewing Neville.
Right.
And at first he was like, our guest at this time, Aiden Neville. Aiden, tell us. Like he got his name wrong, and then Neville was like, just to be clear, it's Adrian. And then he started talking, and then Bruce was just like, yes, but first, please tell me, what's it like to be a WWE Tag Team Champion? And Neville was like, oh, well, I'm not. I'm a WWE NXT Tag Team Champion, and you should know that. And then Breeze was just like, okay, but more importantly, tell me something funny.
Yes, that was what I was trying to say. So that was the one. And where did Scott Dawson fit into that?
Well, at the end of it, he just kind of randomly showed up on set, and Breeze was like freaking out, and it was like, hey, what are you doing? Get away, go away. I'm doing an interview here. And Dawson was just like, oh, hey, how's it going? How you doing, guys? And then Breeze was talking about how, listen, if you want to be on the show, you have to answer questions. That's what this is. And Dawson was just like, oh, sure, I can answer questions. What's up? And Breeze was just like, hey, Scott Dawson, why are you such an uggo? And Dawson was just like, an uggo? You trying to call me ugly? And just the charisma that he had, I thought it was good.
Yeah, he's a good dude. Regal comes out, and he gets right down to brass tacks. He says, hey, we're going to straighten this whole thing out. Gargano, Ciampa, you are going to get your shot when it presents itself. But next week, American Alpha versus the Revival, NXT Tag Team Championship match, 2 out of 3 falls. I think this is going to be the first tag team 2 out of 3 falls match in NXT.
I do believe you're correct. Yeah, I think the only other ones that we've had were Zayn Joe and Zayn Cesaro.
And I think it's going to be insane. Honestly, if I didn't know that Alexa versus Bayley next week is a thing, I honestly would have given this match the whole show. I think that would have been pretty freaking cool. But that's just me because I love both teams. So
well, maybe we're going to have a 2-match show next week since Bliss Bayley's probably going to go on for a little while too.
Yeah, probably. So you know what?
That
could be a really fun episode of NXT if they do it in that format, because that main event, dude, God, I love American Alpha and the Revival so much. So we get that announcement. The Revival leave. Gargano and Ciampa and American Alpha, they shake hands. But then Authors of Pain attack, start putting the boots to American Alpha. Gargano and Ciampa are like, do we help out? I don't know. Okay, let's do it. And they go and they try, which is pointless because they get shut down right out of the gate. And they're probably thinking that's the last time we do anything nice for anybody. And American Alpha, though, they get the jump a little bit. And then Jordan gets probably one of the best spots I've seen in a long time that really made me pop with that suplex. I was like, holy shit. I almost came out of my chair. It was awesome.
Yeah.
But it was for naught because then he gets clotheslined like seconds later. It's like I didn't think, oh crap, ran over just like that. And then they do their
yeah, and I gotta say, these guys, as much of a blatant Matanza ripoff as they are, the one thing I will give them credit for is they throw one hell of a mean clothesline.
They do. They do.
They even get the lean like Matanza does. Like they lean into it.
Right.
It's not as good as Matanza's, but it is really close. And being anywhere close to Matanza puts you above pretty much everyone else because he throws an incredible clothesline.
He really does, guys.
And the thing is too, like I think honestly, when I try and differentiate between a clothesline and a lariat, the common sort of thought is you throw a lariat, whereas a clothesline you just kind of put your arm out and let the other person run into it. But I'm starting to think that it also has something to do with the angle of the arm too, because like when you like wrap your arm around the other guy's like throat and chest, that's more lariat. Whereas if your arm's straight out, that's more clothesline.
Right. Okay.
And these guys and Matanza, when they do it, like they lean into it, like they throw it to so to speak, but their arms are straight.
Right.
So what do you call that? I'm just gonna stick to clothesline because it just feels more right. I don't know.
Yeah, clothesline feels more right to me too. So clothesline, side Russian leg sweep to both Jordan and Gable. And now here's where it gets a little interesting because I'm going to field a question to you, Ashton. Authors of Pain, they lay out American Alpha. Can we agree that they're probably going to beat American Alpha before American Alpha walks, exits stage left, so to speak, and they move on to the main roster?
I don't know, man.
You don't know?
I don't know.
I really thought you were going to give a resounding yes to that. All right, well, discard that. If you don't know,
I mean, the only reason that I'm hesitant is because, like, I feel like the Revival are also kind of primed for a call-up.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting, because, all right, well, then, you saying that, I don't really know how I'm going to phrase my question now, because I was going to ask you if you felt like, because it seems to me like the Authors of Pain are the type of gimmick where they're going to be in the title picture sooner rather than later.
They might take the titles off the Revival.
You think, I was going to get to that, do you think Gargano and Ciampa would be champions when that happens, or the Revival? And if it is the Revival, here's my other question. Do the Authors of Pain become babyfaces in that moment?
No.
Or do the Revival become the babyfaces?
Yeah, they would.
You really think so? That's very interesting to me.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's like these sort of long-tenured NXT guys that have been fighting for a long time that finally got to the top going against these relative unknowns that want to take everything away from them. Like, that's a big story.
Right, I get what you're saying. Very interesting. Yeah, I'm glad I fielded that to you because I was really thinking, seeing all those players in the ring, I'm like, I do. Yeah.
No, you go.
No, I was gonna say I really do think the Authors of Pain are gonna beat American Alpha, but I was more curious about who are the NXT Tag Team Champions gonna be because I assumed Authors of Pain would very soon be the number one contender. So is it gonna be Gargano, Ciampa, or the Revival? And I'm leaning towards the Revival, so I do think we're going to get Authors of Pain versus the Revival for the NXT Tag Team Championships in the future. But what were you going to say, Ashton?
Yeah, I feel like, we give Lucha Underground all the credit in the world. The one thing I think that they could do better from a writing standpoint is recognizing and utilizing sort of a sense of hometown players. You know what I mean?
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Guys like Mundo and Puma that have been around since literally day one are naturally going to be easier to get that Boyle Heights crowd to cheer for than guys that are relatively outsiders like Tejano.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Like Tejano's been around for a season now, but he showed up at the very end of last season and he really only ever shows up like it feels like maybe once a month if that.
Right.
And then, like, you've got, like, Puma and Mundo and Drago and Phoenix and Pentagon and all these guys that have been around since, like, the first 10 episodes of the entire series. And even though those guys shouldn't necessarily all be Technicos, I do think that it is a lot easier to make them Technicos than people that have debuted more recently, because the people that debut very recently feel more like outsiders, and you've got to work harder to get them over with the crowd than people that have been around forever.
I would definitely agree with you there. So you feel like, again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, I just want to clarify exactly what your position is. Do you feel like Lucha Underground taps into enough their homegrown kind of talent?
I just think that they need to do a little bit more, because, like, I think perfect example is Puma Mysterio.
Right.
Puma is a Lucha Underground guy, through and through.
Yes.
Like, he's been around since day one, main evented episode 1, all that stuff. Mysterio is kind of in an awkward situation where, like, yes, he's a legend to Lucha Underground's sort of quote-unquote parent company, AAA, but he's not a Lucha Underground guy.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're kind of pitting Puma against Mysterio, and I think, and this is kind of where I think they could be doing better, I think that they want the crowd to be behind Mysterio.
Ah, I see what you're saying. So, yeah, because, I mean, I did kind of get that vibe, too, because I'm not saying I don't love it, but if I'm looking at it objectively, Puma's mannerisms, I mean, they could be construed as confident, which they were by me and you. Others, though, could very rightly, in my mind, interpret it as, Puma's being more rudo. You know,
Or
he's got, like,
arrogant,
rudo
yeah,
tendencies.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it just feels like they kind of want the crowd to more be behind Mysterio, but then you also kind of have this home field dynamic where Puma's been around forever, and the people are probably never going to full-blown boo him unless he, like, punches Sexy Star or something. You know what I mean? Like, it would take
Yeah.
something egregious for them to boo him.
Yeah, like now I can see what you're saying. So bringing it full circle now that we've fleshed out this concept of newer guys being outsiders, what you're saying is if you're going to really do the dynamic of Authors of Pain versus the Revival, NXT would be smart to commit to the Revival as the babyfaces and not try and force Authors of Pain being these like very destructive, very fun babyfaces against arrogant guys like the Revival, because you don't think
Right.
that would work.
Well, and especially because with the Revival, the Authors of Pain are never going to be sympathetic.
Right.
Never. It's just not going to happen. They're too big, they're too intimidating, they're too scary. The Revival have everything in the world going for them right now, but what they don't have going for them in general is size, and the Authors of Pain do.
Right, so you think NXT should really play on that factor, and that's how they should tell their story, to try and mess with the dynamic.
You can get
you know.
sympathy on the Revival by just using the size disadvantage that they have, but what's going to make them even more convincing as babyfaces is them really playing up how long they've had to work for this.
Right.
Because we've seen their struggle.
Exactly, we have. Yeah,
with the Authors of Pain, there really hasn't been a struggle, and I'm going to emphasize the word yet.
Right. I really like where you're coming from, man. I'm inclined to agree. I think NXT would be smart not to really mess with a good thing, just let things progress naturally. And knowing Full Sail, which you'd think the writers and all that stuff behind the scenes of NXT would have a good pulse on Full Sail by now, I think definitely would kind of throw their weight behind the Revival in such a scenario.
I don't know if they do,
ride that
man.
wave.
Just the writing in general just kind of feels like let's just throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and whatever sticks we'll run with.
Yeah, because I feel like if they really understood the pulse of Full Sail, I'm not saying Ty Dillinger would be an NXT champion, but yeah, he'd be doing a lot better than what he is.
He wouldn't need to be a champion. He could be the new frickin' Sami Zayn. Sami took 2 years to win a title.
That is very true.
But that's the kind of character that Ty could be right now if the NXT writers had their fingers on the pulse.
Right. So yeah, I mean, knowing all that, I don't know, because I just looked at all those tag teams and I'm like, what combination is going to win out here? And I just had a weird feeling it was going to be Authors of Pain and the Revival. So we'll see.
Well, it's interesting that we reached the same conclusion for such different reasons.
Yeah, definitely. That rarely happens, but
it's funny to me that you thought that they were going to try and make the Authors of Pain face.
Yeah, I guess I just thought that because they've really done such a great job, and by they I really should say the Revival, of being like fun heels and really committed heels, especially in their Enzo and Cass program. I thought that was the height of their heel work. Not saying they've diminished since then, but you're not going to get much better than shattering a guy's leg. That was so good. But yeah, I don't know what they're going to do, but they'll figure something out.
Yep.
All right, high spots and low shots. I hate to give it to them, but I'm going to have to say my low shot is American Alpha.
Ooh.
They got beat down again. I know they've got a rematch to look forward to, but they have got a lot breathing down their neck right now between, worrying about can they beat the Revival 2 out of 3 falls and the Authors of Pain, who's saying they're not going to keep their fingers out of the match. So, yeah, American Alpha, I love them to death, and I thought Jason Jordan had an amazing highlight tonight, but they are my low shot.
I love that one move can be on both of our highlight reels.
I know, right?
Like, he got nothing but beat up in that segment, but one tiny little offensive maneuver and something as simple as a suplex, and boom, on the frickin' scene.
Exactly.
I love it. Moggle.
So who's your low shot?
Well, my low shot's going to be the Hype Bros, because even though they had a solid match, they still lost, which means another 2 months of Mojo training without Zach.
Hey, man. That sounds like a great justification if I ever heard one.
I will, however, give an honorary low shot to Carmella because she was pretty much the only thing standing between Alexa Bliss and Bayley, and she failed.
Yeah, that's so true. I'm sorry, just the way you said failed was hilarious.
Oh, that was entirely intentional, my friend.
That's how I want to say failed to everyone. Oh, delicious.
So why don't
beg pardon?
So why don't you?
I don't know. I can't do it as good as you can, I think, admittedly. I'll give you that one.
But
my high spot, I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going to say my high spot's Alexa Bliss, actually, because she won her match, and not only that, feeling confident and feeling good off that win, she immediately takes the fight to Bayley. Alexa's really developed a chip on her shoulder. I could say even longer than this time span for sure, but definitely over the last few weeks. And yeah, she wants to know if she can beat Bayley. I'm intrigued about what kind of match these two can have, because I feel like they faced off before and it was fine, but you never know if an outing can be better than the last. So that's what I'm hoping for. Alexa's my high spot.
All right, that's cool. That's smart. That makes sense.
Who's your high spot?
Ooh, this is the tough one. I almost want to just be like, oh, well, my high spot is Gargano and Ciampa because they won. But I really don't like to have my high spot and low shot from the same match.
Right.
So, no, you know what? My high spot's going to be Jason Jordan specifically because American Alpha as a unit got tag team championship match next week, which is huge. But I can't, in all good conscience, give my high spot to both of them because Gable got pretty well dominated out there. Jordan had a highlight of the night.
He did. And honestly, if we do see the Authors of Pain versus American Alpha, because I've seen, and I think you have as well, Chad Gable's amateur days and the freakish power he does have, despite looking like, a smaller guy. I want to see him do a chaos theory to one of the Authors of Pain so bad. Like, that imagery just gets me popping out of my chair just thinking about it. But yeah, Jordan just straight suplexing one of them was freaking great. And yeah, despite the fact that it didn't end like you would have hoped, he at least did something. So yeah, I can ride with that high spot for sure.
Right, and plus, even if you don't think that that's enough to call it a high spot, the fact that they got the title shot next week is also huge.
Yeah, and 2 out of 3 falls, too, which I think really does favor American Alpha in a way.
Able
to go to distance, stuff like that.
I would agree with that, because a lot of the time, the Revival get these wins that feel fluky, because, like, oh, well, they had all these perfect things. It was the perfect storm, because that guy wasn't in the ring, and that guy hit that move, and then, oh my god, he couldn't get back in the ring in time to save him, and oh, it's over.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, a lot of the Revival's tactics sort of lead to finishes in matches that feel fluky, even though they can repeat the same result over and over again. But yeah, I guess after the Revival beats American Alpha this time, it's going to be no flukes here, brothers.
Yeah, there you go.
And hey, since we don't do preview predictions for NXT, I'm going to come right out and say I do think Revival's winning and retaining.
Oh, I completely agree. Look, man, I'm not even thinking about the NXT Tag Team titles. I'm thinking about those WWE Tag Team Championships around the waist of Jordan and Gable. That's all I'm thinking about. So, yeah, I definitely think they're losing, and they're moving on to bigger, and I won't necessarily say better, but they can make it better.
But what about Enzo and Cass?
Look, Enzo and Cass never even won the NXT Tag Team titles. They probably won't win the WWE Tag Team titles. They're perpetual failures. They'll get over it.
Oh my god. Okay, what's next?
Well, that's it, brother. That's the show. So do you have any concluding remarks about NXT before I take us off the air?
Yeah, clearly I'm getting, young developing Alzheimer's because I forgot about the end of my own goddamn show.
Look, man, I know a doctor. It'll be just fine. But with that
said, how many doctors do you know, John? How many dozens?
Look, this isn't about me, okay? I don't know why you're making this about me when you're the one with the young age Alzheimer's. But anyway.
Oh, no, that's right. It's called early onset Alzheimer's.
That's right. But that normally doesn't happen until you're like 30-something, I hear in most studies.
Okay, so it's really early, okay?
Oh my god, all right. I almost feel like it's getting borderline offensive. But anyway.
Look, man, let me have my Alzheimer's and be done with it.
all right. Jesus. All right.
You even say that with a straight face.
Well, while we can still both remember the name of this podcast, this has been NXT. This has been TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my cohort and commentary Ashton. Guys, be sure to comment and subscribe on YouTube. Brother, what question do you have for our subscribers this week?
Oh, well, I mean, I already kind of answered it, so let's hear it from you guys. Who do you think is going to win next week? We know of two matches, Bayley Bliss and Revival Alpha.
Yeah, guys, who's going to be the winners of those two matches? Get it started down below. You guys already know everything else you have to do, and we will see you again this Friday for our Ultima Lucha Dose preview and predictions. From what I remember about the last Ultima Lucha preview and predictions, we had some very interesting differences, between myself and my co-host and commentator here. I'm interested to see what this year brings, so be sure to check it out, guys. It's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. And until then, tune in and peace out.